Would it be too much to say that the Galaxy S8 is the best Android phone of the year? What about the best Android phone ever made? Okay, what about the best pretty big but feels small with really good software that can't take a bad photo phone? Yeah, I'd say that's about right. My name is Daniel Bader, and this is the Android Central review of the Samsung Galaxy S8. I'll start off by saying this. I've used both the 5.8-inch Galaxy S8 and the 6.2-inch Galaxy S8 Plus. And in this review, we're going to focus on the S8 Plus because there's really not that much difference between them. The S8 Plus has a slightly bigger battery, about 16%, and it's got that bigger screen, which gives it a wider footprint, but this is a really kind of narrow and very small phone for a 6.2-inch display. So this is the one we're going to focus on, but everything I say applies to both. By now you may have heard of Samsung's Infinity display, this beautiful, tall 18.5:9 aspect ratio AMOLED display that is the extension of what the company's been doing for the last few years. This is by far the best screen on the market right now. It's sharp, it's beautiful and bright in sunlight, and it's really got no downsides. Perfect blacks, amazing colors, it's accurate, and you can adjust the colors if you want. What's really amazing about this phone though is that it does away with all of the bezels. You have a phone that's essentially all screen. Because both phones have that edge display, you don't have to worry that the lack of bezels up top and bottom looks strange because it just kind of all flows into each other. It even makes the LG G6, which has a similar design, look kind of bezel-tastic as a result. So there has to be a compromise, right? You make the screen as big as the phone, you have to remove the physical home button, and that's exactly what Samsung did. There is no physical home button on this screen, and as a result, this fingerprint sensor moved to the back. We'll get to that later, but this is one of the biggest changes. So in order to accommodate that change, Samsung had to make the home button feel like a home button. That's why there's an actual haptic engine inside the home button. When you tap on it, you feel it. It feels like a physical button. But even better, you turn off the screen, you can press it and it turns on the screen. More than that, you can activate the biometric facial recognition or iris scanner in one fell swoop. It's a really cool effect. So both phones have the curved edge display, and it still has those edge display features, but what's really great is that Samsung learned its lesson from the S7 and made the curves slightly less severe, so it makes it easier to swipe in from the left side of the screen. The other thing to keep in mind is that this is a tall display. It's taller than most apps can currently support. So Samsung has included this override feature, which makes any app align to the 18.5:9 aspect ratio. You may have to tweak it in the settings, but it's a way to make sure that every app works out of the box just fine until the developers update it. But the one thing to keep in mind here is that when you look at this phone, this is a 6.2-inch phone. And it's smaller than the iPhone 7 Plus or the Google Pixel XL. It's a little taller, but it's narrower and therefore easier to use in one hand. This is a huge shift for the industry, and you'll see every company, probably Google and Apple included, move to this design. Okay, so let's go back to the home button. So there's this haptic engine underneath that gives you pressure-sensitive feedback, but that also means that there are now on-screen back and multitasking buttons, just like every other phone, just like we've wanted Samsung to do for so long. Except that by default, the orientation is still the way that Samsung does its capacitive keys, with the multitasking button on the left side and the back button on the right. But here's the thing, you can reverse them. You can do whatever you want with them. This is finally the most customizable Samsung phone you can imagine. And it also makes it a lot easier if you have muscle memory like I do, where going between, say, a Pixel and a Galaxy S7 makes your mind go crazy and you have to relearn how to use the phone all over again. This just makes everything so much simpler. And there are two new biometric authentication methods, face recognition and iris scanning. Iris scanning comes from the Note 7, but face recognition, well, it's kind of new old. It's been in Android since 2011, but Samsung has made so many improvements to this that it's basically like starting from scratch. But that also means that you may not use the fingerprint sensor as much, and that's okay because it's on the back in a really awkward position. It's right next to the camera, and especially on the bigger Galaxy S8 Plus, it's pretty hard to reach, especially if you're holding the phone like this down here. You physically have to move your hand up activate the fingerprint sensor. That's okay, you'll get used to it, but the fact that the face recognition is as fast as it is, I found myself using the fingerprint sensor about a quarter as much as I use it on other phones. You have two ways to unlock your phone with your face. You have the facial recognition, which is really fast, as I said, but is not as accurate. And then you have iris scanning. And that takes the technology from the Note 7, the one that debuted last year, and improves it in every way. The iris scanner is now faster, it's more reliable, and it's better in low light. It doesn't mean that it's as fast as face recognition, but if you want something that's unimpeachable, something that's just as, if not more secure than the fingerprint sensor, you're gonna wanna do the iris scanner. Either way though, being able to go from a completely black screen to unlocking your phone, to looking at it and getting through to the software, that's an amazing feeling, especially when you don't have to hike your hand up to find that fingerprint sensor. Let's talk about the rest of the software. This is running Android 7.0, not 7.1, as was rumored. But there's really not a whole lot to complain about. Samsung has done a great job finding a balance between its tendency to meddle with the way Android looks and the way that Google intended Nougat to look. Let's take the launcher, for example. There's this really nice, sort of simple launcher, and you swipe up or down to get into the app drawer. But the app drawer itself is still horizontal, and it's still custom, which means that you actually have to go in and alphabetize it and make it look the way that I want it to look. But there's really not a whole lot else to complain about. There is still app duplication, so you have two internet browsers, you have two galleries, you have two app stores. But there's kind of a reason for all three of them. And I actually like the browser better than Chrome, and I use the gallery because there are some really cool features in there. So there are a lot of people complaining about it, but I don't care. I like it. The camera, as I said earlier, is one of those things that people look out for as an improvement year over year. And Samsung's done an amazing job keeping up with the competition. But there was concern that because it has the same specs, there wasn't a lot of improvement. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say you're not gonna be disappointed in this camera. This is one of, if not the best cameras on the market today. It's got an updated sensor, it's still 12 megapixels with an f1.7 lens, but inside here is something special and something that the Galaxy S7 or even the Google Pixel, which is our current reigning camera champ, doesn't have. And that's a Snapdragon 835 or Exynos 8895 chip. That does two things. It makes image signal processing way faster, and it adds something called multi-frame processing, which means when you take a photo, it actually takes 3 or 4 and combines them together. This isn't the same as HDR. This is something completely new, but you're not gonna notice a lot of difference between it and the Galaxy S7, at least in daylight. The real differences come out in low light photos. If you look at the difference between this Galaxy S7 and Galaxy S8 shot, taken with the same shutter speed, the exact same environment, you'll notice much more clarity on the S8. What it means is that the processing is happening behind the scenes. Even the sensor with the same specifications is making sure that you have better results. The one major difference between the S8 and the S7 is the new front-facing camera. This is an 8 megapixel autofocus camera, which means that finally your selfies are not going to be blurry or out of focus if you rush to take them. It also means that you have a bit more control over what you look like compared to the background. And combined with the new filters that are built into Samsung's camera app, you have a pretty robust set of Snapchat-like experiences that don't really need any external apps to work. You can just upload them to any social network you want. At the end of the day though, when it comes down to it, the cameras on the Galaxy S8 are two things. They're fast and they're reliable. Every time I open the app, I know that I'm gonna get a great photo regardless of the scenario. I knew that with the S7 and I know that with the S8. The difference is that I know that even in low light, I'm gonna get a great photo on the S8. Samsung's software pièce de résistance, its major announcement in addition to the Infinity display, is Bixby. It's AI-powered personal assistant. At its core, Bixby is about helping you do things better, helping give you context when you didn't know you needed it. Right now, Bixby is only half done, and that's why we can't really review it until later this year. But let's talk about what you can do right now. Bixby is activated with a physical button on the left side of the Galaxy S8, and you press that to launch Bixby Home, which is a feed of things that the phone thinks you need right now. Your schedule, your reminders, any news updates from Flipboard, things like that. The rest of it is interspersed around the phone. You have Bixby Vision, which is a part of the camera app. You use it to identify things like wine bottles. You can find a great bottle of wine if you're at a store, or you can get similar photos to the things that you're taking. The other part is Bixby Reminders, which is part of the home experience, and you can essentially do what you would do on Google Assistant. You ask it to tell you to pick up milk or eggs on the way home, and once you get near the grocery store, it'll remind you to do that. That's not new. What is new is Bixby Voice, and that's the thing that we can't show you because it's only launching later this spring. But at its core, Bixby Voice is about helping you do things on your phone using your voice. You're gonna hold down that Bixby button as a walkie-talkie and ask it to navigate to this webpage or crop this photo or find that photo of me and my niece from 2015. Those are the kinds of things that Google Assistant or Google Photos can do today, but this is not just about connecting to the internet. Bixby Voice is going to be about connecting locally and helping you do things on your phone that you would with your finger. Okay, last bit. Let's talk battery life and specs. So in North America, this has a Snapdragon 835 platform with 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage standard. There is a 6 gig version out there somewhere, and it may come to North America, but don't hold out much hope. The Snapdragon 835 is really fast. It's about 20% faster in most ways than the 821 on phones like the OnePlus 3T, the Google Pixel, and the LG G6. But it's really much faster in games, and that's where you're gonna notice a difference. The performance is outstanding, especially when you enable performance mode, which is another tweak that allows you to set the screen resolution to its maximum on the Galaxy S8 and gives your gaming that extra oomph that it needs. Aside from that, the 835 or the Exynos 8895 in some markets is built on a 10 nanometer process. That's a lot of technical jargon, but what it means is that it's a lot more efficient, much more efficient than the 821. These are much more efficient chips, and the way that you can get those extra 3 or 4 hours a day, even with 5-6 hours of screen on time, that's gonna be the biggest difference between the S8 and its predecessor. And then there are the other goodies. There's a USB Type-C port on the bottom. That's new from the Galaxy S7, and it debuted on the Note 7, but we all know what happened to that phone. There's still IP68 water and dust resistance, which is great. There's wireless charging, as it has been for the last couple of years. So what can you take away from this? The Galaxy S8 is probably the best Android phone you can buy today, and maybe even the best phone you can buy today. Whether you want the smaller Galaxy S8 or the larger Galaxy S8 Plus, you can't go wrong. This is a fast, beautiful, and reliable phone with excellent battery life and really great cameras. Yes, it's launching with Android 7.0 Nougat at a time where we're looking forward to Android 8.0. And yes, the Google Pixel does get faster updates, and it may have slightly better video stabilization or may have a few more features. But at the end of the day, this is probably the most well-rounded phone you can buy. And that's all you can really ask for. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please press that like button. And to see more videos like this, subscribe to our channel. It would mean a lot to us. See you later.